Oh, hello, and welcome to Glitch Please, the podcast where we complain about video games as much as possible.
Sometimes we say nice things.
Sometimes we say nice things as well. I'm Ashley.
I'm Adam.
I'm Ryan.
And today's episode is brought to us by Castor Mattresses and Movement Watches, so we'll hear more about them in a little bit. But first of all, what have you guys been up to?
What have I been up to?
You're not sure?
Well, I mean, mainly still playing Battlegrounds. They just released a patch today.
Well, that's pretty exciting.
Which, well, yeah, it's the start of the rollout of the stuff they started talking about at E3.
You can see the sort of progression of everyone going through the Battlegrounds zeitgeist. John Reisinger is playing Battlegrounds.
I mean,
John Reisinger doesn't play games.
Everybody's got
He plays.
Okay, he plays like game.
He focuses on one game.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll give the guy some credit. He played the hell out of Smite when everyone was playing Smite. Now he's playing Pub. Everyone's playing Pub. I'm sure that guy plays games.
Yeah.
He gets around to it eventually. I've been finishing up XCOM 2 because them having DLC reminded me that I hadn't played that game for a while, and I had never played through all the original DLC for it until I got, I think, a code for it on the Xbox. So I played it originally on the PC, played it again on the Xbox, which, by the way, if you're going to play it on the Xbox, absolutely get an external SSD to put the game on because it will save your loaf time so much.
Your loaf?
I mean,
loaf
really,
times.
if you
won't be loafing because the load times are so much better.
If you have the ability, though, just getting an SSD for your console is a good move in any case.
If you have the ability, getting an SSD for something you game on, period, is a good idea.
Right.
Don't even, if you can, it is worth the upgrade if you've got, life to live outside of waiting on the loading screen.
Yeah.
I picked up Pub as well for a little bit. That game is like stressful to the max. Like I don't know if
good stressful though. It's like
it is and it isn't. Like you get that adrenaline rush, but at the same time, like it's kind of like waiting for a jump scare. Like you're just waiting to get shot at. It's like a little spooky. Not spooky, but like it's unnerving.
And we had discussed this before because Battlegrounds, Battle Royale's not really my genre.
Not me.
So I love that everyone is loving it and having a great time in this game. It's not the kind of game that really resonates with me on a personal level. But I remember talking to you and you're like, I have zero interest in Battlegrounds. But now you're in it.
I have zero interest. I mean, I had zero interest, but so many of my friends were playing. I figured like this is like a big enough deal that I should at least try it. And I tried it. I haven't played a lot of it. I played like 2 or 3 hours. I won one time in a duo.
Congratulations.
Pair. Yeah, my friend carried me big time. Mostly I've been
Was it Andrew Panton because he carries everyone through every game as far as I can tell?
It's a friend I've been playing games with since Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Oh.
I also picked up the Darkest Dungeon DLC. That game's fucking awesome, by the way. Have you played Darkest Dungeon?
I have not.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's the basic setup for it is it's kind of like XCOM where you have like a roster. You take those people through dungeons, and it's sort of scrolling left to right, but the rooms you go into branch out, and there's items to find and enemies to fight and things like that. It focuses on like brutal difficulty, and like a big mechanic in it is stress. So like if your characters get too stressed out, they go back out. They'll probably have a heart attack and die.
Whoa.
This is that game.
Right.
Okay.
But they released a DLC for it now, and the DLC introduces a new area and a new type of enemy that like has a chance to curse your characters permanently. I don't know if it's permanently yet. I haven't found a way to remove it. But basically, it makes it so that they need this blood. Like it's like a vampire thing. Yeah. So they need this blood, and if you don't give it to them, they die. But if you do give it to them, they'll get a buff. But it's like really hard to get the blood. So a lot of times you have like 4 characters with this disease, and you always have to find a blood supply, or otherwise your characters will eventually just die. But it's really fun. It's a good, hard, challenging game. When like the highs of that game are so high because you build up so long, you grind and grind and grind to get a team good enough to take on like a boss. And then you get like one run at the boss and your characters are super stressed out or they die or something like that. But the highs of that game are so great. But there's a little bit of
How do you get them unstressed out? Do you give them like puppies?
So there's
Massages?
actually,
Like nice
yes.
spa day?
Not massages or puppies, but
Mani-pedi?
you can send them to the hookers.
Okay,
You can send
that's
them,
like a puppy.
yeah,
sure.
you can send them to go
Just
gambling.
like a puppy.
Yeah, puppies, hookers. Sure.
You can send them to the bar to have a drink. You can send them to go hurt themselves in the flagellate.
Self-flagellation
Yes.
is in the game.
Uh,
That is how you
that's
de-stress.
how you
Prayer,
reduce
meditation.
stress.
The fun thing is, like, sometimes you'll come back after they've been flagellating or visiting with, like, one
I
thing
do have a
happens.
question about flagellation.
Yeah,
by the
what's
way.
up, man?
Is
professional.
it redundant to say self-flagellation? Is flagellation inherently on
No,
oneself, or
I
can you
imagine
flagellate
you can flagellate
others?
someone else.
Yeah, I'm curious now. I've always assumed it was self-flagellation, but maybe flagellation is the act of self-flagellating.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But recommend Darkest Dungeon DLC highly.
He's not looking it up, I don't think.
I'm working on it.
Hey,
Okay.
Ben,
He's
what's
working
the difference? So it sounds very much like this is the kind of game that appeals to the Dark Souls masochist in you.
Well,
Sounds like combat works
the masochist. Yeah, the combat is very much.
Yes, but I mean, like in terms of the difficulty scale.
Yeah,
And
it's just like it's a brutal game, but it has like high reward to it. The combat's really fun. It is very board gamey. You basically have 4 characters left and right, and their position determines what attacks they can do, and also who they can attack on the other side. So it's all about positioning your people and trying to kill the other team before they kill you. And generally, like once you get the hang of it, it's a little bit easier. I bumped the difficulty up a little bit. But
From brutal to...
No, they added a radiant difficulty for people that were like, they got the game and like, wow, this is stupidly hard, and that's what I started on, and it became a little too easy. So I started a new game, bumped it up, and it's still not quite hard enough, but the grind is really bad. That's the only thing I'll give that game bad review on is like, the grind is not my favorite, but like everything else in the game is so much fun. There's like items to find, there's set bonuses. When you get a new, like every time you come back from a battle, there's new people waiting for you so you can recruit them into your group. You generally build up like 3 or 4 different teams of people. You can upgrade their gear, you can upgrade their abilities. It's just fun, man. But it's also like super brutal when you get like, you have your A team, like your favorite team.
Right.
And you take them on a hard mission and lose like 2 or 3 of them. And it's like, it's a fucking nightmare. Cause like there goes your favorite team. The best part about the game is now dead and you gotta like restart.
It sounds like you're playing, it's a Game of Thrones simulator.
Yeah, it is. It is very reminiscent of that. I'll also give this game big points because it is a Lovecraftian game, and I'm super into Lovecraftian horror. But I don't like being scared. So most Lovecraftian games are just like Amnesia, or you know, I don't know what else. But Bloodborne's a good example of a not scary one. But Lovecraftian themes like Cthulhu enemies, like all the insanity stuff, like the stress stuff. It's great, man. Really, really recommend it.
Now, do you ever play Fire Emblem?
I actually haven't. I played Fire Emblem, is it Fates, the one for the phone?
That's Fire Emblem
I don't know.
Heroes.
Yeah,
The one
that
for the
game
phone.
obviously totally different. I know what Fire Emblem is. I never got into it. I don't know why, because it's on the 3DS.
Maybe. Well, it might be worth checking out if you like things like the permadeath. There are difficulties where the characters, once they die, that's it, they're dead. And it's that very much, it's a turn-based tactical RPG, great characters. If you like that sort of thing and you like the brutality and actually being invested in whether or not this character dies because you're not going to get him back,
Right.
then I would highly recommend it. I think there are settings you can do on it now where they'll respawn at the end of a fight if you're milquetoast like me.
Yeah. No,
And I just want them back. Even like they shouldn't pay for my mistakes.
totally. There are times in like XCOM where I won't let someone die because I'm like, you know what? I really like this dude. I've spent like 18 hours on him. I'm keeping him, so I'll just like save scum and reload.
Well, is that
Not a
option in this
possibility.
game at all?
Not
Okay.
a possibility in Darkest Dungeon.
Is there even like a bum cheese option where you can just slap the thing off? Like, oh no, they're dead.
No.
Turn off the power.
No, you're totally screwed.
That's
if
a
someone dies.
call out to her.
Also,
criminal
like
masterminds.
the fun part is like if you're in a dungeon and you realize you're not in a good way, like your characters are really stressed out and you've lost someone, and like if you lose someone partway through a dungeon, you're not completing the dungeon. Like you need 4 people. If you decide to leave, there's a really good chance that your characters will have a heart attack and die on your way out. So like
Wait.
So hey
even if you wanna
Ryan, there's
peace
this
out-
great game that's out that you should really try. Here's what happens: if something goes wrong, you're all dead. If you decide to pull eject, you're all dead.
It's
really fun.
Wait a minute. Explain to me the rationale here for a second. It's like, oh shit, we're fucked. We should just leave.
Well,
that's more stressful than we should go forward?
Well, apparently the stress of leaving is enough to cause some people to go over the edge and just have a heart attack. I don't know. It's a great game. Like,
Did they just come out of there and just start cramming McDonald's in their mouth? Why is everyone's heart health so poor?
the stress mechanics are like
Are these
a lot.
yours?
Yeah.
The stress mechanics are a lot to deal with to begin with, but like there are moments in that game where you think you're screwed. Like you have a chance when your characters get to 0 health. They'll get to 0 health and they'll be on death's door, which means If they take another hit, they're dead. But
Right.
so like there are moments in that game where you have like 2 people on death's door and you heal them a little bit so they're off death's door, and it's just like this constant battle of like, am I gonna win? Am I gonna win? Am I gonna die? And like when you don't lose anyone, you beat the boss. It's so like it's like that adrenaline pump you get from pub. It's great, man.
Well, that's what I kind of like about at least Battlegrounds right now is I used to get that feeling from things like Dead by Daylight, and that was kind of where Friday the 13th missed. Was I never felt like I could hide in Friday the 13th. In Dead by Daylight, you had those moments when you're being stalked by the killer and you're like, you crouch in a bush or something and they go right by you and you're like, that is death walking by me right now. And you have that moment where it's like, and that happens in Battlegrounds all the time, or at least typically get one of those per round unless unless you happen to walk right in front of someone and they just end you.
Most of that game for me was like I was very tense, and until when I won, all that tension was relieved as like an adrenaline rush, and it was a lot to handle. Like I haven't felt that way since like raiding in like the Old Republic when you beat like a really hard boss for the first time. Like it is a rush, dude. But I had to turn it off after that. I was like, I can't play anymore.
A lot of times,
here's the thing. Go out on a high note.
Right.
You never have to play it again.
I don't think I've played since I got the chicken dinner.
That game is funny. Like if I'm playing by myself and I have like an intense game that ends like that I will stop. I was like, I'll play the one game and it's like, all right, I had a good game. Whether I won or lost, it's like whatever. I had a good game.
Right.
And then I'll turn it off and I'll do something else for a while and come back to it. Though weirdly, when I'm streaming it, I can do it just over and over and over again. It's not.
To that game's credit, the shooting, I think the game is a little janky. Like, I think the way the things render in the distance, pop in and out, kind of look like people walking around. So it's kind of like makes you look. You can't really jump over fences yet. I know that's coming. Mm-hmm. I know some of the inventory stuff feels a little clunky. But to that game's credit, the shooting like feels really on point. My first game, I got like 3 or 4 headshots in single shots. Like as long as you line up their head and you pull the trigger, it's hit scan. You get a headshot. It's like really, really tight. Mm-hmm. So that game's credit, and the sound design is really amazing.
Again, it's very much, that is also what reminds me a little bit of Dead by Daylight, is how important listening is to that game. Because hearing someone approach you, and that's, again, one of those really stressful things where you're in a building and you hear footsteps and you realize they're not yours. And you're like,
yeah.
It's like, are they above
Pull
me
out the shotgun, sit in the bathtub.
But isn't it also good, like, don't you also have a good time, though, knowing that, like, they're there, but you haven't moved, so they don't know you're there?
Oh,
Can you immediately unequip your shoes and go silent?
It doesn't actually make you silent to have your shoes off.
It's funny that all.
I'm sorry, that's not what sneaking in and out of the house taught me.
And if you're aiming down sights, you don't make a lot of noise.
There's a bunch of clothes in that game, and I was like picking them up thinking they were doing something totally cosmetic.
No, it's all cosmetic. Yeah. They do change the sound, though.
Do they?
If you are wearing different kinds of shoes, it does make different sounds.
People were telling
walking.
me it didn't, but okay.
There are even jangles and extra like noises to some of the like coats and things like that.
Gotcha.
Like you're wearing the long coat, you can definitely hear a slight difference in it. Not that it matters, but you are making maybe slightly more noise.
Yeah. I also dug back into Terraria. That game is like maybe top 5 ever.
I've never played.
Best indie game I've ever played.
I'm gonna need you to take me through that game.
Let's play that game, dude.
I've tried to play it on my own.
Fucking God.
But it struck me very much as a similar experience as Minecraft, in that when I started playing Minecraft, I had someone standing behind me saying, "Try this, now try this," and I felt guided through the early part, at least like surviving the first night and like making my first wood weapon or tool or whatever. And that was the point where I could be like, oh shit. Oh, okay. Well, here we go. We're off the precipice and into the black hole that is Minecraft. But then I tried to play Terraria and I didn't have anyone like that, so I was just running around, falling off cliffs and dying.
Totally.
And I could tell that there's like something there beneath the surface, and I just didn't quite get to it.
Yeah,
So I could use the guiding angel.
That game definitely doesn't tell you what it is on the surface. It seems like a building game, kind of like Minecraft, but it where Minecraft leads probably more towards the creative side, like the building and surviving the night. This is much more of a kind of like a randomized RPG. There's a ton of different gear, a ton of different mounts, a ton of different spells, guns.
You had me at mounts.
Right. Listen, dude, you can ride cute animals, and you can have cute animal pets. I found a penguin.
You have a penguin?
The game's great.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we'll play it, and you can teach me, and then I can be a disciple of the Terraria. But honestly, one of the things that I like about Terraria is that it's got a little bit of that throwback style to it. It is where Minecraft is fully, the 3D, voxels, whatever. Terraria is 2D. And so you're in a more contained space, and it's got a kind of a retro feel to it, even though the gameplay is not retro at all.
No.
But actually, retro has been kind of a theme of the week because.
Oh, that's a segue.
Did you like that?
No, I liked it.
Did you like that?
I'm sorry I called it out, but it was just going
it was
so
really-
perfectly.
The smoothest segues
It was
ever.
really
You're like,
smooth
oh,
up until that,
segue,
until you
wow.
called it out.
No,
quite
sometimes it's
proud of
like when
myself.
you see good art in progress, you just gotta be like, I like what you're doing there. I got it.
Thank you. Well, to continue, Nintendo announced the SNES Classic Edition, so I thought this would be a good chance for us to talk a little bit about, first of all, how we feel about that, but also just this ongoing trend of getting everyone to shell out for retro games once again. And this follows on Sega Forever. So there's a lot actually to discuss this week about nostalgia, what's good, what's bad, what's worth paying for. So let's do that. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I didn't even realize we had a little video for that. That was
Yeah, we're trying to do like weird little glitches and all kinds of videos just to celebrate the blurst, the best worst.
The blur.
Gotcha.
Actually, you know what? I think blurst is supposed to be worse than worst.
Worse than worst?
I'm trying to think according to 30 Rock canon. Ben, did we ever find out the difference between flagellation and self-flagellation?
Well, I Googled flagellation, and I realized I had safe search off, and then I kind of just abandoned that whole search.
Probably a good call. Okay.
Someone out there knows.
Anyway, so Nintendo has unveiled. Oh, well, I was saying
keep
Ryan
going.
here's
I'm
about
gonna
safe
look into
search
this.
off. What? Nintendo unveiled the SNES Classic Edition. To immediate jokes. It's already a punchline because, of course, the NES Classic Edition came out last year. Huge hit. It sold every single unit that it could possibly sell and probably would have sold a couple magnitudes of that, except they didn't make enough. And that one was 30 of the best, most popular, most memorable NES games for $60 with the hardware and the world's shortest cable. And then earlier this year, they just discontinued it. They said it was always intended to be limited run. So sorry they didn't make more, but they didn't realize that it would be a hit.
Look, they got to put it back in the vault. They're going to Disney.
They
this.
are.
There's no way they don't.
They're Disneying this. They've put it back in the Nintendo vault, and we'll see it again in a couple of years.
By the way, flagellation, if you just look in a dictionary,
Okay.
Well, I think he might have been looking at a different kind of dictionary, if you know what I mean.
you don't have to go to the urban variety. It's flogging or beating, either as a religious discipline or for sexual gratification.
Okay, so you can then
So it's just a
flagellate
verb.
someone else.
You
potentially.
hit yourself.
Yeah, it is self-flagellation is not the word that I used before, and I forgot all of a sudden.
All right.
Okay.
Rhetorical. No. Fuck. I can't remember anymore. My brain's not awake yet.
Drink your Coke.
It's out. I need another one.
Can we get him another Coke? This is an
Sad.
emergency.
Apparently, flagellation is more, it can be both religious or sexual, whereas self-flagellation is more the religious ritual.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And to follow up on blurst,
Redundant. It was redundant. I couldn't
it's a
remember the word
substitute for
redundant.
the word worst, only to be used in the extreme cases.
Okay, so it's worse than worst. We're sorting out a lot of stuff here.
NES Classics, though.
So video games.
Okay.
SNES Classic
Classics.
specifically. So they've announced it.
Now
It's
with-
coming out in September. This one is going to be 21 SNES games for $80. So it's essentially doubling the price, like the per game price. So because you had 30 for 60, so it's like $2
Well, you know,
a
with
game.
the 8 to 16 bit, they're charging by bit.
Sure. So this is going to be around $4 per game. There is something cool coming with this, and that is the first ever proper retail release of Star Fox 2. There's been a ROM floating around of like an unfinished version of the game for years and years and years. But this is the first time Star Fox 2 is actually going to be released. In fact, this was really cute. I think it was on Twitter, someone posted a picture of the Star Fox 2 dev team finally having a launch party for themselves. They just went out for some cheeky bevs because they're finally going to get the launch of the game.
The game was made. It was done. Like, it was ready to go, but I think they canceled it because of like the timing of N64 maybe?
Well, I mean, how many StarCraft Ghosts didn't come out?
Right. Right. Well, I don't think StarCraft Ghost was done, but yeah.
No, but I remember playing
Thank you.
StarCraft Ghost on the floor at E3. Like
Oh,
it was
well, you were
there. It
there.
was playable.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of things that get playable but aren't actually like done. But,
Sure. Just put it. No, it's just too short for this.
Question.
What if
Do you have the games list for this?
There we go.
Let me. Ben, do you have the games list?
Yeah, I do.
It's so it's funny. We did several months ago. Is right after the NES Classic Edition came out. We did a list of like all the games that we'd want to see in an SNES Classic Edition, and most of the ones that we listed are on there. Well, I say most. I think we did 30 games, and obviously they couldn't all make it. But so here we have the list. It's going to be. Well, that is not at all readable, but there's Super Mario Kart, Link to the Past, Super Mario World, it's F-Zero,
Secret of Mana.
Secret of Mana, Earthbound, Yoshi's Island, Star Fox, Kirby's Dream Course, Final Fantasy III, Kirby's Superstar. It's a couple
Like,
of Superstar
here's the
games.
ones that you're probably excited about,
And
and
then
then
here's the
also some other ones that you
Well,
probably
look,
like.
oh,
I mean,
fuck that, Donkey Kong
Donkey Kong
But there's
Country.
some
Yeah,
really good
dude.
ones down there. Like obviously, I got excited about Secret of Mana, and then there's Street
the
Fighter 2,
Contra
Punch
The
Three.
Out.
list I have
Yeah.
here is Contra 3: The Alien Wars, Donkey Kong Country, Earthbound, Final Fantasy 3, which I think was 6 in Japan, F-Zero, Kirby Superstar, Kirby's Dream Course, The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, Mega Man X, Secret of Mana, Star Fox, Star Fox 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting, Super Castlevania 4, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario RPG: Legend of the Seven Stars, Super Mario World, Super Metroid, Super Punch-Out, and Yoshi's Island.
So it's a really good lineup. There are a couple, there's a couple of misses, I think. But for the most part, it's really strong.
You think this is dictated more by what? Well, I mean, the licensing shouldn't be a problem. They're Nintendo, but
Yeah, but licensing can always be an issue, especially if it's like a third party something or other. Like
or a company that doesn't
one
exist
of the,
anymore.
Yeah. One of the misses is Turtles in Time. Like that's not
yeah.
there. Probably a licensing thing. So
Definitely.
there are a lot of those that are like that. And I think what's the other one? Is it Chrono Trigger?
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Chrono Trigger is
Chrono
also
Trigger.
missing. So, like I said, it's not a comprehensive list of games, but it's pretty good.
Was Symphony of the Night a SNES game? I only played it when it released on Xbox Live Arcade.
I believe it was a PlayStation 1 game. I'll look
PlayStation
that
1,
up,
okay.
though.
Yeah. So
That would make sense.
I'm more excited probably than this throwback console warrants because I never had an SNES. We had in my family at least we had an NES, and we got one cartridge ever for it, and it was the triple cartridge with it had Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and World Track Meet.
Oh man, I only have the double. I had Mario and Duck Hunt.
Oh fuck yeah, we had the.
That's pretty much all I ever got. Though. I got a Ninja Turtles game for it. I don't think it ever worked.
In the words of Cole Gallion, oh baby, a triple. But yeah, it came with the power pad, and you would just like cheat incessantly at World Track Meet, just sit there and go ba 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 ba, and look how fast I'm running.
It's the only way to win.
Right. So that was the only cartridge I ever had for NES. Anything else, so like we'd have to play at a cousin's house or something. And then the next console we got in the house was a Nintendo 64, and we also got one cartridge for that. My family, big believers in buying the console, not big believers in attach rate. They were like, "You've got your game."
Well, they had rentals back then. You
Oh
could
god,
go.
I hate
That's-
the word attach
that's
rate.
what we
man.
ended
It
up
makes me
doing.
think of my retail days.
But that's what we ended up doing is like we could like rent a game every now and again. That's how we played Pilot Wings.
Pilot
so
Wings.
to play
Pilot Wings
SNES,
not in there.
no, it's not. But to play any SNES stuff, I went over to a friend's house. Her brother had an SNES, and so we would sit in his room, and he would be furious and leave, which was
Let your sister play.
which was really
What was
the
your-
ideal
what was
scenario.
your 1X64 cartridge?
It was Mario 64.
1X64, okay.
So if I had to have one cartridge, it was a good one.
Damn good one.
Never played that one.
But so we'd play
never had
whatever
64.
games she had.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, no, I had NES and SNES, and then I skipped to Xbox.
Okay.
As far as consoles go.
I felt like I was pretty spoiled. I wasn't spoiled, but like I had an NES, and I had a PlayStation 1, and then 64. I never got any games for them.
Well, I just went
But I had-
PC after that.
Yeah, well, I also, I was playing like Doom back then, and got into Quake and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I would like a N64 classic.
Well, who knows?
Well,
That there's
I
a
mean-
very good chance that could come next year.
Like
be
I said,
fair, though-
I want that, but it's like I'm never gonna get one because the supply is never gonna be big enough for me to like. I'm not.
I don't know. Maybe they learned with this one. Well,
Listen,
there's
we
a couple takeaways they could have had from the NES
Everyone
classic.
in the fucking world is gonna want one of these. Like, and any of it to the
is
Switch.
arguably
it's
the
$80.
best console ever made, like as far as like the overall games lineup goes. This is really, 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 really solid. You disagree?
Like,
I mean,
Okay, let's then at least agree that it's one of the best consoles ever made. One of the best lineups.
it's one of the best consoles you remember being made. It doesn't necessarily mean that.
Well, sure.
No, but again, we're talking about nostalgia, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that is what it is. It's you remember those games great.
But again, a lot of these games I don't remember. I didn't get to play a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
I played, like the games that I spent the most time with were Donkey Kong Country, which amazing.
Love that game.
And Sunset Riders, which is not included in this pack. Surprise, surprise.
Well, I mean, remember everything though on this machine is the foundation for gaming as we know it today. So you're talking about stripped down versions of things that you now know.
Kotaku did come out and ask Nintendo, and Nintendo responded saying they plan to ship more Super Nintendo Classics than the Nintendo Classic, but only this year. Their exact statement was, "We aren't providing specific numbers, but we will provide significantly more units of the Super Nintendo Classic Edition than we did of the Nintendo Classic Edition. Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo Classic Edition," that's a mouthful, "is currently planned to ship from September 29th until the end of calendar year 2017. At this time, we have nothing to announce regarding any possible shipments beyond this year."
I mean, it just doesn't seem like the demand can possibly be met unless they've been making these things for fucking years. Like, it just seems like so many people are gonna want this. It's $80, and it's coming at holiday season, so there's gonna be not only people that love the SNES, but it's gonna be like parents that are like, it's a good gift. It's only $80 instead of buying them like an Xbox.
Also, think of all the confusion it can generate. Like, what do you want for Christmas? I want the new Nintendo.
Right.
Is that a Switch?
We keep saying that, but I mean, people are not as.
Don't underestimate
Parents
the
could be-
confusion
parents
of
could be-
grandparents.
Well, did you ever have
That's fair.
parents buy you a game or a system that was like a game for the wrong system or something like that? Like that happened all the time.
Or they'll get the wrong
But
system.
I'm old enough that there weren't that many options.
Like think of all the people that like might have ended up with Wii's as gifts because they were cheaper than the Xbox, and they were like, whatever, you can play games on it. Shut up.
I mean, I think as our generations grow up at this point, though, we're getting to the point where parents are well. There's weird cycles to it where they say that. So our parents' generation was not very computer savvy because they didn't have them, and that leads to our generation, which is a lot more computer savvy, which then apparently creates a trough they expect with the next generation because we know so much about computers. Our kids won't need to figure stuff out for themselves, and so they will grow up more ignorant of computers.
I mean,
They'll be good at using them, but not at fixing
not at
them.
necessarily like doing.
So
stuff.
there are ebbs and flows of the
Okay.
people purchasing things actually knowing what the things are, sometimes better than the people are purchasing them for.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but I still think that when it comes to like a grandparent, a gift, although like this is very clearly intended to be a gift thing.
You think so? This looks like a self-purchase.
It's going to come out holiday season.
Well, they're marketing it holiday season.
I mean, this
is
looks
gonna
like
this is gonna be
I'm gonna
marketed.
buy me a SNES kind of thing.
Are you going to buy one of these?
I might actually.
I'm
Are
trying.
you going to
I
pre-order it?
try.
Like, are you going to like go through the rigmarole of like I'm
You
going to
pretty
wait up
much
at midnight?
have to pre-order it.
That's the thing. Is like I'm not going to. I don't want to go through that. Like I want one, but I don't want to like stress out over getting one.
I mean, I like the idea of like buying this and like exposing my kids to like this is what gaming was like when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But I've tried that before with Eli, and I've like this is for Mario 3. Doesn't give a.
Well,
Totally.
it's for one, he doesn't have your nostalgia for it. All
No.
he sees is like a shitty version of something and why can't he like touch the screen and make it jump?
Well, I mean,
probably.
like he wants to play Lego Batman instead, is what he wants, and that's not like it looks. Well, it does look pretty dramatically different, but still, it's like he's used to mechanics that are more advanced than what this is going to offer in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and that's one of the real tricks with this nostalgia. Because this is absolutely a nostalgia purchase for the vast majority of us that are buying it for ourselves. For me, it's all the things that I missed out on and that I've heard about. Like there's I never played Secret of Mana.
It's a great RPG. I love that game.
See, and I'm excited to have that opportunity. I'm a little bit worried that the memory of it is pristine. And so everyone's like amazing. It's the stands the test of time, et cetera. But it's also, as you noted, a lot of them are going to feel like stripped down versions of the kind of games that we have today, because when they came out, very much like Lord of the Rings actually, when they came out, they were the first of their kind, they were revolutionary, doing stuff that had never been done before. Now, they've been iterated on so many times that if you don't have that initial attachment to them, you might go back, experience them, and just be like, well, what's so special about this?
So kind of on that note, 3 years ago, an article came out for on Kotaku about a dad that was running his child through like the history of video games, and he definitely came out like with a greater appreciation for like the Nintendo, Super Nintendo era. But they kind of find out that he developed a strong taste for roguelikes and became frighteningly good at video games to the point that he can complete Spelunky through the Hell route and a lot of like the really harder routes of games. But like definitely came through like able to appreciate like the newer games more.
I absolutely support, by the way, social Darwinism when it comes to computer abilities. Yeah, I refuse to fix things for my kids. It's like, oh, if you want to use that, go do it.
Google.
Yeah, well, they can't Google yet. I mean, I'll provide, like, I'll answer questions and I'll show them how to do things a couple times. But it's like, all right, if it's not working, you need to figure it out. And Eli, this is good and bad. I mean, he knows how to turn on the Xbox. He knows how to log in. He knows how to start whatever he wants to start. He can browse to his Netflix profile. I mean, those are not complicated things, but he's 6 years old. And he's been doing it since he was 4. So he's figured those things out because I refuse to do it for him. But at the same time, that means that he now has access to that sometimes without my ability to stop him. But,
Sure. I think, how old was I when I initially got an NES? I think I was 8. No, maybe I was 7.
I mean, the other thing to remember about a lot of these games is they fit on such small cartridges that we're used to games being created with the breadth of space to make a title that's bigger and longer and more epic. You could beat Super Metroid in like what, under an hour? If you did like a speed run on it,
sure.
But I mean, most of these titles you could beat easily within 4 hours.
Well, let's not say easily, shall we? But you could beat them.
I mean, that doesn't matter. Like, it's a nostalgia box. Like, you want to go back and play A, the stuff you missed, or B, the stuff you remember and you love. Mm-hmm. And I think that, to me, that like it warrants a purchase, but like no one's like you're not gonna be able to purchase one. Probably.
I'm honestly, I've had I've had the product page open on Best Buy, like open in a browser since they listed it, and it's still there. It's like coming soon, and I just know that it's gonna refresh. Like the one time I'm not looking at it, and they're all gonna be gone.
Yep.
And set up an alert.
Well, yeah, but even so, like the way I got an NES Classic, actually Nintendo was very nice. They sent one to the but I consider that an office one. Try not to like abuse the privilege enough to just like take it home. So I bought my own, and the only way I got one was the last restock that Best Buy was going to have. It's like they made it known. It was, oh, look, that's the
Famicom.
The Famicom edition. So Europe is getting both of these.
And I think Europe can already pre-order.
Yes. Pre-orders opened. Well, they could. They no longer can because they've pre-ordered out. It took like less than an hour to pre-order out across Europe, which obviously an issue. So as far as I know, they haven't opened in the U.S. yet. They haven't opened on Amazon. They haven't opened on Best Buy, or GameStop, anything like that yet.
You know where I can tell you where you can probably go find one as soon as they come out. It may
Toys
take
R
some
Us?
travel. No, go to Florence, South Carolina, because we were able to just walk into a GameStop and buy a Switch in the middle of our tour. They had them in stock. They were like the only place that did.
So Japan's getting one as well, and their list of games is slightly different from what the American version is getting.
What are they getting?
I can't tell what I'm trying to compare it right now to see what they're not getting, but it looks like they're getting Legend of the Mystical Ninja, Tetris Attack, and Super Formation Soccer and Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem over 4 other games. I'm trying to figure that out right now.
Interesting.
No Ninja Gaidens anywhere, though.
Licensing. And there's a lot of companies now that like anyone who's third party may very well be holding stuff back to just release on their own.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it a little bit more when we get into the news, but Sega, for example, they just started up their own like Sega Forever project. How it's being received is a little bit different than the SNES Classic. No one is pre-ordering this one out, but they're just one of many that's really reaching into that back catalog to get more of our money again, possibly. It was working. I mean,
look, Nintendo's continuing their trend.
I'm upset about the price ratio for this one. I don't think that Nintendo is going to produce enough, and I also don't give them a pass this time. I'll give them a pass on the NES Classic of saying, oh, we didn't think it was going to be this popular. We just thought it was going to be, a little thing, help us get our revenue across the line for the year, whatever. But I will only buy that from them the once if they come out and the SNES is criminally underproduced. At that point, I will, instead of like, oh, that's so sweet, you guys, and so humble, but really you should just try and produce more, okay? I'll just be pissed.
No, I mean, when has Nintendo ever had the manufacturing capability to meet demand at launch of anything?
Well, I mean, there's the Wii U.
Even that probably, did it not sell out in its initial run?
It sold out like its initial shipment, but you could pretty much
and then
walk
word
in
got around that it was like, oh.
Yeah. Even launch day, I'm not 100% sure that it's sold through everywhere. Because I remember walking down to the GameStop and picking up a pre-order, and there were still plenty.
Even to this point, you still can't get a Switch if you just felt like I wanted one today.
And see, that seems to be a region-based thing, because whenever we do a news story about how difficult they are to find, that they're selling through, that GameStop is selling out of them before they even get to the stores, you inevitably get people saying, well, you just walk into the store and well, I saw 50 of them in my
Or in South Carolina.
Store.
There you go. Just go there.
So it is a regional thing, I'm sure. But yeah, for the most part, it is still very, very difficult to find one.
So, and part of that may just be they may just not have the manufacturing back end to support that kind of thing. It takes a lot to make a new product.
They've said that, like they're competing with other companies like Apple for.
Yeah.
There's only so much production line to run. Right.
Yeah, well, the Switch is, I feel like, a slightly different animal because it's much more sophisticated technology inside. This one is, let's be honest.
It's a ROM box.
It's a ROM box. It's not difficult to make.
It's a TI-83 with an upgraded.
It's running its little emulator, and it's got its little chip with all the games on it, and it doesn't take much to be what it is.
Hell, they didn't even shell out for more than 3 feet of cable on the last one.
Right.
This one's 5.
God, this one's 5. So,
hey!
And it does come with a second controller.
Is it
this time around?
This long?
This is 5 feet.
Oh, that's the controller length. Okay.
Yeah.
The
So
controller's stretched out
cord,
physically 5 feet.
That's.
like 5 feet.
Not enough.
Still not enough. But I will take the improvement, I guess.
I mean, it's
enough to sit at your desk and play.
Yeah.
But if you're in a living room setting, it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Do you worry that if you go back and play any of these games that they're not going to hold up? Will playing them tarnish your memory of them if they don't hold up?
I feel like a lot of times I go back and play old games, the things that don't hold up the most aren't necessarily the graphics or the mechanics. Because like you expect graphics to look bad to some extent. But it's like the UIs and the menus are so clunky looking that those are the turnoffs for me.
And inventory management.
Right.
But then I remember that all the games that come out now that they still haven't figured that out.
Right.
Well, I went back recently and I played through Psychonauts. And because that was one of my favorite games of the original like PS2 Xbox era. Amazing game, loved it. 100%ed it, went and got all the collectibles, went and got absolutely everything, went back and played it recently. Still quite a good game.
Yep.
There's still a lot that's charming about it. I love the characters, I love the just overall design, aesthetic, I love the crazy different levels, they're all super unique. Things that I don't love, the camera, fuck that camera. It was a bad camera back then, now it just pisses me off.
Yeah.
Like, so much of the difficulty for the game comes from that camera, not because it should have been difficult. And also, I no longer, largely because of the camera, I no longer have the patience for the collectibles. So I played through it, I experienced the story, again, had a good time. Mostly I went back and played it because there's now Rhombus of Ruin and then Psychonauts 2 is going to come out, so I wanted to, refresh my memory and just, catch up.
Get back to that world a little bit.
Yeah. And so I'm glad I did that, but my glasses aren't quite as rosy for the game anymore because I did have to acknowledge the flaws that it had. It always had those flaws. I was more forgiving of them at the time, but now I feel like enough of those issues have been solved and I expect them to be better in games now that I have a hard time forgiving it, even though I know that the modern games have benefited from, the experience of iterations since then.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit tough. Also Morrowind. I went back and played Morrowind, and that's one that the graphics suffer on pretty heavily. There are a lot of mods now that completely transform.
They turned Skyrim. They have a Morrowind mod for Skyrim now.
Yeah, they got Skywind.
Skywind, that's what it is.
Yeah, where it's like completely rebuilding it. There's also another one though. It's I want to say is it a Morrowind overhaul? There's it's a like Tamriel rebuilt, something like that. And it's been in development for like 10 years, which unfortunately I think is too long.
I think we're even getting to the point with Skyrim where Skyrim is not what you remember Skyrim being.
No.
I mean, they've remastered it, which helps, but if you Skyrim was such a big thing when they released it. It was like, wow, the graphics are amazing. And you go back and look at original Skyrim now, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is what it looks like.
It's just sort of, but again, I think games like Skyrim and honestly like Morrowind as well benefit very much from all the graphics overhauls that they can bring it up to date pretty significantly. They can do a lot with it, but it was also things that I've become accustomed to in the later Elder Scrolls titles. Oblivion introduced, for example, like waypoints, where you would have a quest marker and it would tell you, it's like, oh, it's this way, it's in this direction, go here. I remember in Morrowind, so the game came with a map, which was really, really handy because I needed that fucking paper map because I couldn't just turn around and there's the arrow, and if I just run in this direction, then I should be good. I remember once I had to like run to this town in the middle of this like volcanic wasteland, and I was checking direction. Am I going too far east? Because if I'm going too far east, I will overshoot the town, and then I'll keep running through the wasteland until I get to the other shore.
And you get out your sextant, you gotta check where the stars are.
Yeah, and that was part of the challenge, but it was also part of the fun because I was actually there consulting a map, and that was really cool. But there are other gameplay elements that did not age well. Like I, at the time, was willing to give these fucking hyper-aggressive cliff racers a pass.
I knew they were coming up.
Dude, fucking cliff racers.
You're so traumatized.
I am traumatized.
When are you gonna forgive the cliff racers?
Never. When they're extinct.
Well, they're digital, so we can just delete them right now. You want to go? We can mod the game and just remove the cliff racers. You know what? I'll even give you a button where you can just be like, they're in the game, and then just the squelching sound.
I just want to see them all go, and then fall to the ground.
You find nothing but cliff racer corpses on your journey.
I'm on board. Let's do this. So, Morrowind was one of those ones where I thought, just doing a remaster, just doing a graphics overhaul isn't enough to save that game.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, a lot of the remasters and graphics overhauls, what they do is they replace textures and they replace shaders and they upgrade things like that, but what they don't really go back and do is upgrade the base geometry. So you have this beautiful texture overlaid on a polygonal face, and that's much harder to do. Sometimes they'll go in and just throw a quick smooth on it, and you get something.
Works sometimes, not so much. I'm actually curious about that for Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy, which by the time this hits, by the time everyone sees it, it's out.
Yep.
So we'll get to actually get some hands-on time with that and see what they've done, because the reason that one is interesting is apparently they couldn't find, or like they didn't have all the source code and everything, so they had some of the models and some of the geometry, but they more or less remade the entire game.
Yep.
Which is good.
From the ground up. I mean, that's awesome.
It's being listed somewhere between like a remake and a reboot. A lot of what I found on the game is the animations are new, the music's been remastered, 3D models have been completely rebuilt, but it's still using the same level data that Naughty Dog used in the original game, but that's about it.
Yeah, so they had to build a lot of it from scratch, which means that on the one hand, that's a lot more work. But on the other hand, it means they might have a little bit more freedom to update and tweak the gameplay for modern sensibilities. Because I feel like a lot of us have moved on. That was one of my main criticisms with Yooka-Laylee, for example, was it felt, very much it was like Banjo-Kazooie, but it was just Banjo-Kazooie. It felt like it hadn't been fixed or it hadn't been updated. It hadn't been tweaked.
Yeah, Crash Bandicoot was one of my favorite PS1 games. Basically, I played those games, Twisted Metal and Oddworld. But that game, in principle, is kind of like a retro runner where you're just running in a direction and you're not really exploring the world. It's basically like you're running down a street. But the hardest thing about that game, and I don't know how it's going to translate, the hardest thing about that game was gauging depth perception on jumps. There was a lot of times where you jump over a pit and there'd be a moving platform. And you'd think you'd be landing on it, but until you see the shadow over the platform, you really can't tell where you're gonna land. And I wonder how that will translate nowadays, because that was my biggest problem with those games back then. But I love those games, and I hope they kind of preserve the way the character moves and pretty much everything else about it. I'm sure they did.
I mean, it looks pretty loyal.
It does. It does.
And I've been hearing a lot of good things. I haven't had hands-on myself, but everything I've seen of it has been pretty promising.
Yeah.
So, fingers crossed. I mean, the one thing I do like about remakes, remasters as well, but more remakes is when it does tweak it a little bit. It takes the opportunity to update the formula, because I like the idea of an entire new generation of people having access to Crash Bandicoot. That's really cool. It means that more people can be on board with the franchise. You get to share the love of it with more people, but only if they like it.
Right. They recently put out Ratchet and Clank for PS4, which was kind of like a remake remaster as well. But that game, I didn't play a lot of the original one. I played half of it, and it was so long ago I can't remember. Did you play those games?
Not originally.
Okay. I can't, I know the new one is amazing, and I know that, I feel like the story was preserved from the first one, and some of the levels were, but I feel like some of the sensibilities in that game feel more modern than they could have possibly on the PS1, but maybe that's the Tesla.
Maybe they were just very forward-thinking.
Right, maybe, yeah, but I recently played the remaster again. I played through it once, I'm playing through it again. The game is fucking awesome. It's if you want that old school adventure game, but with a more modern take, it looks beautiful and it plays awesome. That game is amazing.
I always wanted a remake or a remaster of because of the games that I played a lot on PS2 era. I always wanted Jak and Daxter.
Yeah.
I want more Jak and Daxter all the time.
I can see Naughty Dog going back into that well.
I could see Naughty Dog potentially handing it off to someone else.
Listen, they
because they've got a lot on their plate right now.
They do, but all of their games are so okay, Uncharted isn't so serious, but it's so grounded in reality, and I feel like if they want to take a break from the stress of those games, I love the story in Uncharted. I love I kind of love the setting. Or I love the settings. I don't really love the climbing and jumping or the shooting. The combat in those games I think is really weak. And the same goes for Last of Us. The shooting in that game sucks, but the story is amazing. I want them to make a game with Jak and Daxter. There's just all awesome mechanics. It's a fun adventure game. I feel like they can go back to that and take a break from all the stressful games that they're making.
But they make so much money.
I know. I feel like they would make so much money off of a solid Jak and Daxter. Those games were so cool. But I also totally equated it. Those Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter totally blended together for me.
To clarify, they are re-releasing the Jak and Daxter series for PS4 this year.
Yeah,
but it's not a
they're
remake.
re-releasing it.
Yeah.
But again, I think that it's the kind of franchise that I love, and I'm worried that if I go back and play it without any tweaks or updates, I might be sad.
Yeah.
Might be sad about it. And I realize a lot of that's on me. For if I'm going back to play something, you need to be understanding that it's going to be a dated thing. But and it might be good for people who've played it before and who can be forgiving of it, but it may not necessarily attract a new audience. And I think that's a missed opportunity for sure. But that's just me.
Let's talk about some new stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about some new stuff. So we'll start off with Sonic Forever. But first, want to say what?
Loosely.
Sonic Forever, Sega Forever. Sorry.
So okay, no, I thought they really. I believed you that Sonic Forever was a thing. I was like, oh well, I guess that's kind of a new thing.
I mean, let's be honest. That's essentially what everyone wants Sega Forever 4. But first, I want to say thanks to Casper for sponsoring this episode of Glitch Please. Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the cost. Casper is revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing that savings directly to the consumer. Casper's mattress is an obsessively engineered mattress at a very fair price. It's very fair price and price. Casper is made of supportive memory foams for a sleep surface with just the right sink and just the right balance. A week. Plus, its breathable design Plus, its breathable design helps to cool you while you're sleeping and regulate your temperature through the night. You can buy it really easy online, completely risk-free. They send it to you. It comes in a box. You would not believe that like a mattress can fit in the box that it fits in, but you open it up and then it just goes poof, and then it turns into a mattress. It's really cool. Casper is made of, you can buy it very easily online, risk-free. Casper understands the importance of truly trying out a mattress that in all reality, optimistically, if you're doing it right, you spend a third of your life on. Casper offers free delivery and painless returns within a 100-day period, so you don't have to lie down in a showroom. You get to try it out in the privacy of your own home. If you don't like it, that's fine. Plus, you can save an additional $50 towards a mattress purchase by going to casper.com/glitch and entering promo code glitch. It's casper.com/glitch and promo code glitch. Terms and conditions do apply, but the big thing there is free shipping to the US and Canada, so you can get it, you can try it out in your own home. If you don't like it, send it back for free. So it's really pretty risk-free. And, I mean, mattresses are important because you spend so much time on it.
Everybody needs a place to flagellate.
Flagellation.
It's not the tagline, but it could be.
It could be. It could be. Ryan's going into marketing. All right, so let's talk about what's new in the world of video games. All right, so Sega Forever. It's funny that they...
Or what is it, how do I get it, and why do I want it?
Okay, so it's funny that they put this out at the more or less the same time as Nintendo's announcing the SNES Classic, because it just shows their very different strategies, their very different approaches to cashing in essentially on the nostalgia and on the retro games. So what Sega Forever did is they announced that they're having a free, it's sort of a subscription service, but not because it's free, optionally free, just ad supported. And then you can pay to basically remove all the ads. But it's basically a service where they'll have a whole bunch of Sega games, like their own Netflix, sort of.
Got it, okay.
And they're adding in a bunch of additional features like leaderboards and offline play, and Bluetooth controller support. And like I said, it's free, but if you pay, I think it's $1.99, something like that, it removes ads.
Okay.
All great, right? It's available across a whole bunch of platforms. Downside, performs terribly.
Does it?
Terribly.
That's a pretty big downside.
It's been, yeah.
Are they streamed or downloaded?
So it's all built in Unity.
Okay.
Apparently, like the emulator, like, because they're using Unity and emulating the whole thing, it's getting performance hits on hardware that should never be suffering when trying to play an old-ass Sega game. And part of that, it's taking...
But it's for free. Free.
It's also on mobile.
Free.
Free. I just keep seeing that keeps coming up behind you.
Which is
it is on
kind of
mobile.
a bummer for me.
Why?
Because, like, I don't have a controller for my iPhone, and even if I did, like, I have a Switch now. Like, that's the perfect platform for something like this.
Well, we don't know that it
or
couldn't
PC.
potentially come to it. Part of the reason that Sega did it through Unity is so that it could easily be supported across a whole bunch of platforms. That was their rationale for that. Unfortunately, it's just very poorly optimized. And so even if it does come to the Switch, who knows if it'll perform well. It's basically like it came out and immediately everyone is just terribly unhappy with how it is built, because there is a Sega emulator out there, and apparently Sega talked to the developers of the emulator about using it, but Sega wanted them to sign over,
of course,
like,
they did.
all rights and all, like, you know, and so on for the emulator, and the emulator developers were like, no, sod off, and so they're using Unity, and it's not
well.
performing great, and it looks bad when there are emulators out there that do perform plenty well without taking that sort of hit.
I mean, I'd like to really blast Sega for this, but let's be honest. What's going to happen here is it sucks right now. They'll get it fixed, and then it will be an emulator service. Now the real question is, do you care enough about Sega games to?
There's a couple I'd like to go back to.
I mean, do you want to pay the $1.90 or whatever it is, or just go ahead and play with it? I guess it depends on how intrusive the ads are. Are the ads?
Is it $1.99 per game that you want to play, or is it $1.99 for the service and you get to play all the games they have on there?
Subscription? I would assume that's like a monthly thing.
I mean,
But I'm assuming. Let's ask for real clarification before
What
I
I'm saying here is it's $1.99 per game.
$1.99 per game. There you go.
So
game
it's-
without ads. That's interesting. I mean, that's
Well, I mean, but that price is on par with what you would have been paying for NES Classic games.
Or if you think about
Totally.
just a mobile game, like what am I
mean,
going to
but-
buy?
You
on
know,
a
or
mobile?
That's
a
fine.
lot of games on Virtual Console for Nintendo cost more than that. So, you know, I don't really want to hit them too hard for
Totally, I don't-
for asking for
I
$2
don't
a
think the
game when it
price
is
that-
optionally free.
I don't think the price is that bad if it works well. I mean, I'd just rather have it on a different platform.
That's true.
PC or Switch or something like that.
I
Some with a
wonder
built-in
if we'll see
controller.
it ever branch out from mobile, though.
Well,
I
mobile.
hope so.
The thing is,
Right.
mobile can be such a huge moneymaker.
What's the biggest gaming market right now?
Right, and also obviously, you know, Nintendo saw a lot of luck, or not luck, but they saw great result from using mobile to, for example, reinvigorate interest in Pokemon. Well, I mean, we'll
It was really dying.
no, but it wasn't dying, sure. But Pokemon Sun and Moon did go on to sell record units after the excitement of Pokemon Go because it did bring in people who'd fallen off. And so I'm obviously Nintendo was hoping that the same thing for Mario, although the timeline of that's a little bit wonky, and also Super Mario Run didn't perform amazingly. But I'm sure Sega is hoping to reinvigorate their audience as well, get a lot of people like re-energized for their franchises, especially given the missteps they've made with some of their big franchises like Sonic recently.
I'm kind of curious. I mean, because here on the thing we got online, and maybe you can clarify for this, but download them all, games released every month. So is it going to be a rotating cast of games that you kind of like want to be a collector with them?
It
or-
can't be if you're paying $2 a game. You're paying.
Well, no.
specific-
I assume that you get to keep the games that you've downloaded, but are they just going to add to the library, or are they going to be pulling things out?
I have-
So
They-
right now they're all individual apps.
Okay.
Each of the games is
What?
itself an individual app. Yeah, I guess the Sega Forever is a collection. What I'm reading here in an article, it just says that, let's see, where was it? The games will be available as individual apps, with the first 5 appearing at launch, including Sonic the Hedgehog, Comic Zone, Phantasy Star 2, Kid Chameleon, and Altered Beast. I'm trying to download one right now. We'll see how it
I
goes.
don't see any reason for them to remove it. It's not. You're not paying for a service to use the games. You're paying for the games themselves. So
Yeah.
there's no reason for them to go through the trouble of putting Sonic out and then taking it away.
Well, I mean, if it was on a platform, though, I could easily see them doing that to gamify it. So it's like,
You
you
have
better
to get
get
it
it
now.
now. You got to check back next month. I mean, why else would you? Well, I mean, you roll it out like this if you're just like, well, we got to test them and get them rolling. But you could also argue that that's a great way to make it something where it's like, I got to check this month because if I do, I might miss this game. It won't be there. I mean, Games with Gold does kind of the same thing. Where it's like, hey, this is the free game this month. Get it now, or it's going to be gone.
But
Yeah.
that's the
PSN as
situation
well.
where you're playing.
Yep.
That's the situation where you're paying for the service. Like I'm paying, $50 a year for those services, and if I want to get the most out of it, I better check back and get the games that are coming out. But it's not like you're not able to go back and buy any store games unless there's licensing issues.
The
but
devs
yeah.
of that emulator responded, by the way, in a tweet. They said, sorry to all the people that are experiencing subpar performance with this Unity thing. They could have been using RetroArch right now if they hadn't been so stubbornly insistent on demanding we relicense our entire program to something that would strip us of all our rights. On top of some other unreasonable things like not showing any branding, etc. Hell, they could have even been running this app on the desktop right now on top of consoles and maybe some net play as well. Oh, well.
Burn.
Yeah.
Solid burn.
So, I mean, it's unfortunate that there are examples of the Sega games running well, and it was just, for business reasons, people end up with a subpar product.
I mean, I hate to support the corporate line a little bit on this, but I can understand why they would want control over technology that they're going to be releasing. Essentially be creating a platform around that. It makes sense.
It does make sense, but I also get that.
They better have at least offered to pay those guys.
Oh no, I'm sure they did, but it sounds like the deal wasn't something that the emulator developers found acceptable.
Yeah, clearly.
But speaking of the of supporting the corporate line, Ubisoft is fighting back against Vivendi.
Oh, really?
They are. So the background for those who don't know is Vivendi, who used to own Activision until Activision basically bought themselves free, has been over the past several months buying stocks in Ubisoft. They've been buying stakes because they're edging towards what's called a hostile takeover, which is instead of going to the board and just buying the company, you go around to the different stockholders and you just offer to pay them more for their stocks than they're worth. And you build up enough of a stake that, hey, look, now you control the company. It's, so they've been
Controlling
edging towards
share.
that. Yes, for a while now. At the moment, Vivendi's at 27% of the stock and 24.5% of the voting rights. And according to French law, because they're both French companies, I think once it hits 27%, they are required to make a bid for the company. And at the moment, they're saying we have no intention of doing this. And as a result of them saying that, I think they are restricted from passing that line. It's some weird politeness thing. Like if you say that you have no intention of taking over the company, then you can't try and take it over.
You can't accidentally. Oh, oops! We stumbled over the 27.
Right, but I think that period is also over, and Vivendi immediately started buying more stocks. But Ubisoft has finally got some good news because the Guillemots have managed to increase their stake in the company. It's not quite where they'd want it. It's now. So to put it in perspective, the Guillemots own 13.6% of the stock and 20.02% of the voting rights. So that they've increased to that point. So they still have less control over the company than Vivendi, which is a little bit scary. But it's at least a step because they're trying to keep as much control as possible. And it's funny, whenever this comes up, there are the people who are supportive of Ubisoft because, hey, hostile takeover is not cool. And then there are all the people who are just ready to watch Ubisoft burn to the ground because they're not happy about annual Assassin's Creed releases, or they're not happy about the Watch Dogs downgrade, or they're not happy about the fact that the Ubisoft is focusing so much on microtransactions in full retail games, and so on and so forth. So there are this whole segment of people who are just ready to watch it burn.
Which, I mean, ironically, especially with that microtransact in games thing, if Vivendi wins,
it's going to get worse.
Yeah, they're probably going to exploit more of those things than Ubisoft is already.
I mean, Vivendi they're a media conglomerate. That's what they do, is they're in the business of making money, which, admittedly, so is Ubisoft. But at least Ubisoft tries to be in the business of making games.
Yeah, Ubisoft is, supposedly, that's, you can argue how well they achieve it or not. They're in the business of making money from games, whereas Vivendi is in the business of making money through commonly leveraging properties.
Yeah.
So
it's just, I feel like if, and this is me, and full disclosure, I used to work for Ubisoft, so I always I want to cheer for them, even though sometimes I'm like, well, guys, what are you doing? What is your microtransaction shit right now? I don't want to see them get taken over
by the man, the
by
bigger
the
man.
Especially after this year's E3, I'm sort of not back on their side, but I'm sort of open again to Ubisoft, where
You're ready to love
Mario
again.
and Rabbids is a great idea. I think the idea.
Which before E3 I would never have said that.
Totally, the new Beyond Good and Evil is an interesting concept. They're doing a couple things with Assassin's Creed. Seems they make a lot of bad games, or games that are really high production quality but very middling gameplay and horrible microtransaction systems. And it's easy to hate on that, but I still I don't want a game developer that does at least try to be hostily taken over and stuff like that. That's not a good thing to root for.
Yeah, and in no way do I think Vivendi taking over is good for us.
Yeah.
As gamers, I think that the break that Assassin's Creed got, that wouldn't happen because that's a year that they could have put out another title and just had that money flowing.
I mean, the question is always why? Why does Vivendi want Ubisoft? What's their end game for that?
I mean, because they see an opportunity for them to come in and further maximize profits. And to, they do seem to have their eye on the ball to give Ubisoft credit for revenue generation. They do have the 2 top-selling games this year so far, which is crazy, I know, but Ghost Recon Wildlands and For Honor are the 2 top-grossing games of the year.
They are.
Even though they're obviously, For Honor has come under a lot of fire, justifiably, for the microtransactions in a full retail game. Although
and the fall off on player base.
That too. Although I would also argue that that Overwatch should have the exact same scrutiny, and it doesn't. It gets a pass where For Honor hasn't. But I think that's largely because For Honor does have some progression-based microtransactions, whereas Overwatches are 100% cosmetic.
Pure cosmetics.
Yeah.
But still, good news for Ubisoft, potentially.
We'll
At the very least, they're digging in. Also, for the, I guess corporate line-ish, sort of weird. The game that Activision said they had no intention to sell standalone, and no one believed they had no intention to sell it standalone, being sold standalone. Modern Warfare Remastered came out. It's out now. Standalone. Also, 10-year-old game.
Yep.
$40, and does not contain any of the DLC.
It's crazy.
the first game.
I see. Yeah, man. People do not like Activision's pricing structure for these games. Like, if you go on like the game deals subreddit and you look at like the Steam sales, like some of the top comments are always like, again, one more sale and Call of Duty isn't below like $20 or something like that. It's like a 10-year-old fucking game.
Yeah,
Sell
I
for
mean,
cheap.
the fact that it was only Modern Warfare Remastered was only previously available as part of a bundle with Infinite Warfare, and people were plenty upset that it was being held hostage by the most downvoted game of the in the franchise, and it was only available in the $80 bundle, so it was essentially a $20 markup, but standalone $40.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of an issue where that series produces so many titles that if they drop the prices on some of the earlier ones, they're self-competing.
Right.
It's people will buy that title. If you're new to the Call of Duty franchise, you're going to want to enter maybe at an earlier point. The technology of the games.
This game is not something like new Call of Duty fans are going to want to play. This is like a nostalgic.
You don't think so? I think
no.
it was one of the best ones they did.
It is one of the best ones, but
if you
it's 10
haven't
years
played
old,
Call of
dude.
Duty, you don't have the attachment to this
It's
one.
more than 10 years
It
old.
still plays great. It plays better than the newer ones in a lot of ways.
This was the high point for the franchise for a lot of people.
They
so that
started
I
attacking
just,
on stuff that just degraded the responsiveness of the game.
I mean, I don't know, man. It's just such an old game. Like, it should be priced at least like $20 or.
Well, it is. I mean, we do pay $40 for a lot of remasters. They're,
Sure.
not as old. Not 10-year-old games that were remastered. I have the same problem. we pay for what, 40? Was it $40 for Tomb Raider remastered? For Last of Us remastered? Those came out and they weren't full price, but they also weren't cheap. But they also hadn't aged as much in the first place.
I feel the same way about like games like Fable. They came out with the Anniversary Edition, which is a remaster of the first game, which is a 13-year-old game at this point, 13-year-old game, and like that's $35. Way too much money, but I bought it on sale for like 10. So it's on sale right now. Go buy it.
Yeah, Steam sale. You pick anything up great on Steam sale?
So far, I only got Shadow Mortar.
$4.
For Game of the Year edition for $4.
Right.
You more or less have to. Well, if you don't feel like messing around with Modern Warfare Remastered's $40 price point, there is good news, and that is if you have GTA, another very popular title, mods are back, sort of.
The question is, will the Steam
will their
critiques.
ratings turn around? So I checked this last night, and so it remains overwhelmingly negative as far as recent reviews, and then it's overall is down to mixed, and it's recent reviews, 58,000 recent reviews.
Well, so what did they do? How have they fixed mods?
So here's what happened. Of course, they issued a cease and desist to a bunch of different mods. There were some of the admittedly like multiplayer cheaty ones, but then there was also Open4, which is been around for 10 years. It's been supported by Rockstar previously. They sent them a cease and desist, so the mod creators said they were having to shut it down. But they just released another update for it. So it seems like it's back in action, like Rockstar may have stepped back on that one. In particular, because Open 4 is for single-player stuff, and Rockstar's line, their statement when they were issuing the cease and desists were, we don't want anything affecting multiplayer, and everyone's response was, then why are you going after Open 4?
So we still don't have an official statement though from Rockstar saying that it's cool.
No.
Yeah, it's just Open 4
No, we
being
don't.
like,
we
"Ha-ha,
just
doing
got,
it
but
anyway."
we got another update, which if it was still being shut down, they couldn't really issue. So it seems like they very quietly stepped back on it. You would think that they would want to be pretty loud about that.
I mean, a
step.
cease and desist doesn't mean that those people have to like turn off their website or well, I mean,
No, it doesn't. But
it means they're supposed to stop making the product. But,
right. They couldn't be issuing updates for it.
Well, they couldn't officially be, but they could just say like, "Hey, we're out." You know, would somebody put it up? I don't know. I mean, how do you lock that in at that point?
Well, I mean, if you issue an update for your own game, you can't say someone else put your update out, or for your own mod rather.
I don't know, man. We stopped.
It doesn't-
We don't know how it
doesn't
got
hold up.
out.
I don't.
Weird.
I mean, I changed the password. I gave the keys to somebody else. I don't even know who's got control of that right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't
So-
hold up.
No, but I'd like to see an official statement from Rockstar on it, just acknowledging what's happening with Open 4. But it looks like it's back in action, and if you can at least have that one, great. Keep shutting down the multiplayer cheaty mods, whatever. That's bullshit. Especially if someone is willing to pay for them, just fucking go buy your shark
I
cards
don't.
or whatever.
I'm not ready to assume that it's all kosher yet.
Okay.
Not with this kind of level of response, because that's just we'll see what they do kind of thing. Maybe it could be them just thumbing their nose at Rockstar.
So Rockstar,
Or sorry, Take-Two, not Rockstar.
Rockstar updated something in their knowledge base, which is weird. It's not like a public announcement or anything, but just under PC single-player mods. The question says, this is updated June 23rd, 2017, are PC single-player mods allowed? The answer says, Rockstar Games believes in reasonable fan creativity and in particular wants creators to showcase their passion for our games. After discussions with Take-Two has agreed that it generally will not take legal action against third-party projects involving Rockstar's PC games that are single-player, non-commercial, and respect their intellectual property. But yeah, basically it seems like they came to some sort of agreement and they issued a statement, but not specifically for Open
But
4.
here's the weird thing about
quiet.
that is it is, but that's not the first time that Rockstar has made those kind of updates via like a knowledge base, and they just figure that people will be trolling through them enough to find it.
I mean, also that is not. I mean, essentially, this is
That's
the
vague
same
as hell,
thing
but-
that
Right.
Take-Two is already enforcing. Is they're going after people that have mods that support multiplayer. Now, is that there's an update in. Now, what I could see potentially happening here is whatever Open 4's update is something that they are working on their own software to prevent people from interacting with multiplayer, so as to fall under the umbrella of safe single-player support. Maybe
Makes
that's
sense.
it. That would make more sense. I don't know.
It'd be interesting to see how Take-Two responds, but
Yeah.
it's weird that they haven't yet.
But
This
I am
was a couple days ago, right?
Yeah, this was a couple days ago. So I am happy to see it back because I think that it kept the game alive. It kept GTA 4 alive for so long. It does so much for GTA 5, especially since Rockstar's not going to do their own shit for single player ever, apparently.
Take-Two's still trying to definitely keep that umbrella because I'm scrolling farther down in this knowledge base. It says this is not a license and it does not constitute endorsement, approval, or authorization of any third-party project. Take-Two reserves the right to object to any third-party project or to revise, revoke, and to withdraw the statement at any time at their own discretion.
Yeah. So we shall see. But for now, it's a step in the right direction.
I hope so. That would be nice.
Also interesting, Nintendo is I guess just reconfirming their position. Not that this is a huge surprise to anyone that 4K is just not there. That
A
it's
Switch can't do 4K?
I didn't want to do 4K
it's a-
anyway.
You know what you make it sound like they're sulking, but like let's remember which console it was that came out as a competitor for Xbox 360 and PS3 that didn't even do HD because they said that wasn't there yet.
And they
Nintendo
were
is-
wrong.
But Nintendo is infamously gameplay over technology. They always have been. So while Microsoft's chasing that 4K dream, Nintendo's saying that they want to make it so that the less additional stuff you have to buy in order to enjoy their games, the better. They want to minimize that, and studies are showing that at the moment, only 10% of U.S. households, this may vary globally, but 10% of U.S. households have 4K capable televisions, which means that the potential, like the entire potential audience for, say, the PS4 Pro, Xbox One X is 10% of the audience, because the vast majority of people, if they don't have a 4K TV, probably aren't chasing the additional power because they don't see the point for the additional cost.
Here's the thing, Nintendo it's weird how they are always leading the technology curve on trying things like motion control and external peripheral support, but so far behind on every other bit of technology. They
But
just
it
can't.
does show their position, though.
They're trying to give you different ways to play their games. Like,
Except in high resolution.
yeah, but like
We want you to be able to play it with
I'm
anything
kinda-
in your house,
I'm kinda
just not
with them.
sharply.
I'm kind of with them. Like, I don't have a 4K television. I don't plan on getting a 4K TV. Like, my TV is purely something I use to like watch a movie on, and like like it doesn't bother me that it's in 1080. And the same thing goes for like my PC. Like, it's just like I don't need a 4K monitor. Or, like, I don't. So like I just don't. It doesn't bother me that much that they're not going this route. Like, their games look great as is. Like, Mario Kart is a fantastic looking game. Splatoon is a fantastic looking game. And 50% of the people that use the Switch are playing it mobile anyway.
Here's the thing, though. They're using I don't want to go to 4K as an excuse not to provide a powerful, robust console. Because, I mean, I liked Breath of the Wild, but it doesn't run great.
Well, the trade-off, though, is that the more sophisticated hardware you have to put in it, one, the bigger it's going to be, which for their goal of having it be a hybrid console doesn't make a lot of sense. And the more expensive it's going to be, and they try and be the cheapest console they can wherever possible.
That's a little bit of a hooey at this point. The
hooey?
cheapest, yeah.
Is it a hooey,
I'm going to
Ryan?
throw a hooey on that. Cheapest console at $300, but you have to buy another $400 worth of peripherals? Hell, it is.
What do you mean?
What do you mean
$400?
$400
All
for
right,
peripherals?
400 is an exaggeration, but you need a memory card for it. You probably want a Pro controller.
The memory card I'll give you.
I don't have a memory card for mine. What's the fucking deal? Like,
The fucking deal is if you want to play more than one game at
Are
a
you
time,
buying-
which I realize right
I
now.
buy some games-
No, it's cool. I understand right now. It's because they're not giving you any games, so you have no library. So it's easy
I buy
not to
some
have
games
it on there.
physical, and I buy some games digital.
Oh, look. Salty Ryan came out to play.
Right. Yeah, I have some games digital, some games physical. But like,
In like 5 years from now, when you're still on this and you're like, now I have to like either find that physical game
totally.
or
But it's the same fucking thing for the Xbox One. How many people buy fucking a 1 or 2 terabyte hard drive for the Xbox
Yeah, you
One?
did earlier.
Yeah.
In this very
So-
episode, recommend people invest in
for
a solid state hard
performance
drive.
review.
But,
For performance.
have you never, like, people buy and upgrade their hard drives to their PS4,
Yeah.
Xbox One? It's the same fucking thing.
Eventually, not out of the box.
But
With an out-of-the-box Xbox, I can install dozens of games.
Dozens, maybe a
There
stretch.
are single titles
Gears
for
of
that
War-
you can
Gears of
barely
War
install on an Xbox.
Gears of War is 80 gigs on a
Yeah.
500 gig hard drive. Like, come on.
Okay.
Dozens.
You could still install a lot more than one. If
Totally.
the Gears of War for Switch what is that fucking game that you can? That's it. You can install that on your console and nothing else.
Gears of War
Gears
for
of War
Switch.
for Switch.
No, it's not. It's it's one of their launch or early titles is so big that it doesn't.
I think, are you thinking of Breath of the Wild that's 13 gigabytes?
No,
That
there was another one.
That takes up like
that's
roughly
bigger.
half
That
of the...
would make sense. Yeah, I mean, I bought that physical, so I guess I'm a schmuck, but yeah.
You
It's not a schmuck. That's an acceptable way to do it.
Eventually, I'm gonna buy a memory
So,
card.
okay, I'll
Like,
give you the memory card, but everything else is optional.
I mean,
like a memory card is a problem if you're buying digital games, and it's not a problem if you're buying physical games. Like, you're still paying the same amount for the game, so like technically you don't need the memory card. So like you can't, like, nothing else really matters. Like, you can go to the store, buy a Switch for $300, buy a game, and you don't need a memory card.
It's true, but I mean, it's
Like, I
difficult.
get it.
It is
It's
difficult
small-
to defend
it's a small-
If you're
26
comparing it to
gigabytes
other
of onboard
consoles.
memory.
It's a small amount of memory.
we're talking about not just this console as a microcosm, but this console in the environment of other consoles that exist, though. It's like, okay, great. I can pay $300 to that one, buy a game, then I've got a game and a console, but as compared to spending less on an Xbox S and having more room, I'd say as much or more power to deliver gameplay. No, it's not mobile.
More. It's more, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
So Ryan, I don't know what game you're talking about, but
I forget too.
in Japan, I guess Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2 is a 32 gig download.
That may have been what I was thinking about.
Okay, so yeah, that is more than the 26 gigabytes of effective.
Because you have to set aside
space you have.
6.1 gigs for the OS itself.
Yeah.
But just to give some reference, like Breath of the Wild was 13.4 gigs. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is 7 gigs. Snipper Clips is 1.6. Disgaea 5 is 5.92. Puyo Puyo Tetris is 1. I Am Setsuna is 1.4. And Nobunaga's Ambition is 5 gigs.
Yeah. So.
I think Dragon Quest is the one thing.
Okay. No, that one does make sense. But so I'll give you the memory card. You don't have to have a Pro Controller. You don't have to have anything else.
Well, I mean, that's still, we're talking about in absence of the Xbox One S.
We're talking about an additional let's say starting price at $25.
Of what?
A memory card.
For an SD card?
Yeah.
Depends on how big you want to get, but yeah,
Sure.
you could get one.
Let's
I mean,
let's
you
say
want to buy a
25
bigger
bucks. Sure. Okay, let's go $50.
Yeah.
So you're talking 350. Neither of the other consoles launched at those price points. I mean, if you want to compare them to where they're at several years into their life cycle, sure, but that's,
Again, we're talking, you're launching a console that is, those consoles when they launched though were ahead on terms of what they could offer you for space, and arguably graphics are still behind on PC, but PC is not.
But they're
something
also
consoles
way
ever compete
behind
with.
on portability, for example, which is what the Switch's priority is.
I mean, I know you don't like the Switch, but for some,
He liked it
I'm
enough to
excited
buy
about
one.
Trials of the Sword. I mean, there's things that doesn't mean.
I mean, I like it. It's a good system that you can take with you. Like you can dock it up, you can stream, you can half the people use it portably. Like 4K doesn't matter for those people, and for
I use it handheld most of the time.
I don't care about 4K. What I
this
care
is
about
what the argument is.
The argument is though, at the same time, is that 4K power is the same power you can use to make your game run well. And it's like, no, we don't want to do 4K or run well at 1080.
Yeah, I mean, I get what
That's
you're
for
saying.
suckers.
Zelda had some problems, but other than Zelda, I haven't had any problems.
But Zelda's the kind of game I want to see. I don't want to see just constant, we barely stress the system type
Zelda
titles.
also had a patch to address some of those problems.
It did.
It's slightly better, but it's still not great.
It's a lot better.
It's still got a lot of frame drops.
It has some frame drops still, yes. But I also think that the type of game that would stress any system is that open world type of game.
Yeah, but any other console right now can run that game far, far better.
But this is the argument. There are games on PS4 and Xbox One that also have the same issues. Like when Fallout 4 came out, that game had some janky problems. There are plenty of games that come out on more advanced or powerful consoles that have the same issues.
It's true. But
I'm not
delivering
saying
it a lot more.
I'm not saying that the Switch isn't underpowered, but it also isn't the only console with frame rate issues.
And it's also not the kind of console that most people are going into purchasing thinking it's a powerhouse. They're going into it because they're like, I can play it anywhere.
Yeah.
And it delivers on that promise.
I guess it's just that's.
I mean,
It's your
the
flagship.
bottom line is that with Xbox or PS4, you can't milk a cow
What does that mean?
in 1-2 Switch.
1-2 Switch, you go milk, milk, milk.
You not played it?
You didn't play the milking game?
I hate you both.
Look, let's be honest, no one plays the milking game.
No, I've never played 1-2 Switch.
No,
All right, so
fine, no.
you want to channel your rage to something productive? Here we go.
What do you got?
So chiptunes composer Alex Maurer, very well-known chiptunes composer, was contracted to work on a Kickstarter project called Starmer as work for hire. Pretty standard with that sort of project, which means that all the work done was done for a certain amount. All the rights stay with Starmer and the developers, so the artist retains no rights. Obviously, because it's a game. The game's going to want the rights for it. The developers say that they paid her the full agreed upon amount in spite of some medical conditions for Maurer that meant not all the work was actually completed. But Maurer disagreed and believes she's owed more money and interprets this as a breach of contract, which she then interprets to mean that the rights for the music revert to her and that the game shouldn't be using them. As a result, she, issued a DMCA to Valve to have the game pulled from early access.
Okay.
And then posted the soundtrack to, I think it was Bandcamp, for $1,000, $1,000 asking price. And then the developers had to go to Valve and show them the contract and show them that they have the rights to the music in order to get it reinstated. They had to go to Bandcamp and show them that they have the rights to the music in order to get it pulled off that site. And she goes and puts it up on her site for free. And then has started issuing copyright strikes against YouTubers who do Let's Plays and against streamers who are playing the game, and extorting them, saying that she will release the strike if they lodge a complaint against the developer.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I'm
man?
not joking.
It's like, yeah, it's the YouTuber's fault that you have some scuffle with this developer.
Yeah,
Fuck off,
exactly,
man.
and threatening to leave the strikes in place unless they issue a complaint
This
against
is
the
why I
developer.
turn off music anytime I record anything.
Sure, but the thing is, so this is Starmazer. Looks sweet, right?
Has a good look to it.
It's really cute. And you know, it's like it's this very like cool like retro project, retro game. Did well on Kickstarter. So they're working on this whole thing. Their composer has a meltdown, and now they're in the middle of litigation, just trying to protect their
So
game.
okay.
Have they talked about like the difference in pay that she's missing?
Yeah. What are we
She
talking
believes
about here?
so. Yeah, I'm gonna look this up, but I think she was paid $34,000.
36,000.
36,000.
36 out of a contract valued at.
That
we
doesn't
know?
list it.
So you can, Ben, if you can look it up, actually, I'm pretty sure Images has published the contract somewhere.
Yeah.
But she believes she's owed an additional $10,000.
So over a matter of $10,000.
You're gonna ruin your fucking reputation. No one's ever gonna work with you again.
No one will ever work with this person again.
What the hell was the point? Like, what a stupid thing to do, man.
And she was not able to complete all the music.
Due to some medical conditions. Now, what those are isn't specified.
Is it like,
It's potential that it has to do with some surgeries that she had. I believe Alex is going through transition.
Okay.
And it's speculated, I don't know this for a fact, but it's been speculated that the additional funds are required to complete the transition. So I don't know for sure if that's what the case is
counting
or
on
if
that
it's
money
other
and-
sort of medical issues. But that basically Maurer needs an additional $10,000 for medical treatments, and believes that the developers owe this. Now, the developers, for their part, have said that they're trying their best to work with, with YouTube and with Valve and everyone to resolve the copyrights as best they can. But because they didn't issue the strikes, it's limited
Right.
into what they can do. Oh, also, Maurer was upset that people were complaining to her about being issued strikes. And these are manual strikes. These aren't automated. These
Right.
are manually going to videos and claiming them. She was upset that people are complaining to her about the strikes and telling them that they should be upset at the developers for not treating her.
So, I mean, it seems like this is pretty straightforward. You have a contract that says you do X amount of work, you get paid X amount of money.
If you don't
I
complete
haven't read the
work,
contract.
aren't you the one in breach of contract if you don't complete the work?
I mean, yeah.
So overall, this seems like it's kind of a losing proposition for the composer in terms of both, if you're going to take it to the court of public opinion, which is what you're doing if you're issuing copyright strikes against people and trying to get your story out there, essentially.
Not a good way to win
that
them over.
way. No, it doesn't work great. But if you're going to take it to a court of public opinion like that, you have to be reasonably confident that everyone's going to be on your side, and no one is.
Well,
man,
especially-
the fact that she didn't complete all the work, like, I'm sorry that you had medical issues, but like, that leaves you in the wrong. Like, just because you were contracted $42,000 doesn't mean that you get it all if you don't do all the work. Like, where?
Well, the
what is
developers say that they paid her in full.
They said they paid her the.
Yeah,
the
even
40
though the work wasn't fully completed.
Well, this is starting to get more confusing then, yeah.
Sounds batshit crazy.
Yeah, so this is like the confusing thing of the day. Like, how does this make any sense? Like, how does this sound like a good idea for anyone?
I mean, maybe there's a scheduled payment where they're like,
She's extorting YouTubers, so maybe she's extorting.
And
That's a big
developers too.
problem. yeah.
YouTubers and Twitch streamers
And
as
Twitch-
well.
oh, Twitch streamers.
There have been a bunch of Twitch streamers that have been issued with 24-hour bans because she's claiming their stuff in the middle of streams.
yeah, if you're trying to win in the public arena, going after the people who are a large part of that social media thrust
The devs came out with a super long response.
yeah.
There's no like total that they say that they've owed, but they kind of summed it up saying they had an ongoing agreement for work for hire with Alex, rendering her paid for work for the properties. They hold an actual copyright on all the materials related to Starmer. They paid $36.5K for all of her work. They have no desire and have taken no action to commit rights violations against anyone. And most importantly, they have made several attempts to reach a favorable resolution with Alex, both informally and finally by registered letter and communication.
Yeah. So basically, like, it's going to have to go to court now. And there's a bunch of people. There's at least one channel that got 5 strikes issued against it.
Ouch.
Which means that channel's
Stop
dead.
playing the game.
Means the channel's gone.
Well, it might
right,
have
but
been
if they
5
were already
videos
up,
that were released.
if those videos are already up, which this was a spree that took place over the course of a couple of days. Like most of those Let's Plays were already posted. There's nothing you can do about it at that point.
Yeah.
They were already up, and now that channel's gone.
They even offered by official letter to release the rights in exchange for Alex's agreement to remove her disparaging claims, and she's declined that.
Yeah, and they're in the process as well of redoing all the music in the game.
Shit.
So this is just crazy, and I don't know what the deal is with this composer. It makes me sad because I really like good chiptunes, and this is a very well-regarded composer as far as music goes. But this is it's just very confusing as to why she would think this was a good idea, like why this was the strategy to pursue. But, so how's your rage now?
I'm just confused.
You moved from rage to baffle?
See, the thing is, though, I just really liked Breath of the Wild, and I feel like it was done in ill service. But okay, move on.
All right. Well, we're gonna probably let's take it down a notch because like right now I'm getting all worked up. So we'll take it down a notch. We want to answer some of your questions with our mailbag, but before we do that, I want to say thank you to Movement Watches for sponsoring this episode of Glitch Please. They sent me a lovely. This is my lovely like lady grown-up watch. Do I look nice?
You do.
Yeah. I didn't wear watches for a long time because I don't know. I always could only have like shitty plasticky watches. So this one's a nice one, and I've got compliments on it, and that makes me like, what's up? And Mumu was started by two broke college kids. They also wanted to wear stylish watches, but also couldn't afford them. So they started their own watch company. These watches start at $95. At a department store, you're looking at $400 to $500 for something like that. Movement figured out that by selling online, they're able to cut out the middleman and the retail markup, providing the best possible price. They offer classic designs, quality construction, styled minimalism, and you can get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns by going to movement.com/glitch. That's movement.com/glitch. And that's mvmt.com/glitch. And they make great gifts as well. If you've got like a birthday coming up for someone, or a holiday or an anniversary or something like that, watches are awesome. Also, these bands are really easy to like slip off and like change out the bands. If you decide that you want to get a watch, but you have like a couple of different requirements, you don't want to buy a lot of watches, you just get different bands. It's pretty nice, actually. So make sure you check that out at movement.com/glitch and join the movement. And now, mailbag.
Sorry.
Jason.
Great part of that.
Jason.
Okay, so we asked you guys to send in any sort of.
I'm gonna reenact the next part.
Okay. Jason.
Spoilers.
So we asked you guys to send in questions, like topics that you want to get our input on. We have an email address. It's glitchplease@roosterteeth.com if you want to send in a question for the mailbag. First up, we have one from Heather who says, "Hi, Ashley. Hi, Heather. Love the new show.
Hi.
Thanks.
Hi. We're here too.
Can we please discuss the new fad in video games to hold a button instead of just pushing
I hate
it?
that.
Yeah.
I hate that so much.
Mass Effect Andromeda was bad for this. To interact with anything, you had to hold the button down. There's no reason I should have to hold a button for 3 seconds just to pick something up or open a door. Not sure who the culprit is for this new mechanic, but it needs to go. I agree.
Yeah, it's shitty. There are some games.
Is anyone like this?
There are
Anyone?
some- there are
Anyone?
cer-
Bueller?
There are certain games where I think I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but there are certain games that use one button for two different actions, and the hold sort of
Like
makes
one is
sense
a
there.
tap, one is a hold.
Right, and then
Friday the 13th does that.
Okay, well there are some. That is the fucking worst,
And
by
it's
the way.
the worst.
God damn, that game. We'll talk about
do
it.
that.
So it's another example of don't do it.
But there are ones that are like, you need to commit to this, hold this button for 3 seconds is too long. Give me 2
3
seconds.
seconds too long.
1.5 seconds. 3 seconds is too long.
But don't do it on fucking looting.
But don't do it on looting. Like for like if you're committing to like launching like a raid or something like that in like Destiny, like yeah, you should hold it for like 2 seconds.
Right, like if you're launching something that's quite a commitment. Opening
Right.
a door shouldn't be a
No.
commitment.
It makes sense on
what you
thinking
just
about it.
brought up was the most recent example that pissed me off. Where like it's a tense game, you need to open drawers and search stuff. To open a
Like
drawer,
every
it's like
second.
to pick up anything. It's like okay, I'm picking it up. Great job.
I mean,
Well, then
honestly
sometimes
though,
it's
I
like-
get the feeling that that one is potentially there specifically to frustrate you, to make you conscious of
there
the
is-
time.
It's just bad
to
design.
make you
It does
like.
not
No,
take
it's not
3
the
seconds
whole
to
part.
pick
It's the
something up.
fact that they multiplex the usage of a button. Like X is okay. You walk up to a drawer. Let me break the situation
Okay.
down for you. You walk up to a
Okay,
drawer. It's like
let's role play.
Okay, I want to open that drawer. Okay, I'm tapping X and I open the drawer. It's like, oh, there's an item in that drawer. Okay, I'll tap X because it's still X. Oh shit, I closed the drawer. Okay, I'm gonna tap X again. Okay, I'll open the drawer. There's the thing I want. Okay, I'm gonna hold X. All right, this time I grabbed it. Okay. Oh look, there's a trap on the floor. I want to get that trap. Okay.
Is this a hold or a tap?
I tap X to pick it up, and then if I want to place it, well, then I left click. But if I hold X, then I put it down. It's the usages of X, and then it's like I'm fucking next to a window. Oh, X is also jump out the window. Well, damn it, I didn't want to jump out the window, but I guess I'm gonna do that
Now
instead.
you're just holding a bear trap, jumping out a window.
Yeah, I mean it's all there. You've got so many buttons.
I mean,
So many
look,
buttons.
I get what they're trying to do with tap versus holds. You okay?
Tap
You
versus
okay,
hold
buddy?
is acceptable in some situations. If you have to use the same button for things, okay, I get it. But if it's like Zero Dawn does this too, where if you want to loot things, it's like a
Yeah, I think No Man's Sky, which is the least of my complaints about that
No Man's
game.
Sky had a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like the thing about controller mapping is that you are limited. You've got your 4 buttons here, you've got your D-pad, you've got your shoulder buttons, you've got your triggers, then you've got your back start or list boxes or whatever the fuck they want to label those the extra 2 buttons as. But overall, you're limited in the number of buttons you have to work with on a controller, as opposed to like a keyboard. Yeah, okay. I mean, yes, technically you can do like your mouse clicks, and then you got a billion buttons to work with, and all your function keys, whatever. So you may not use all those on a keyboard, but you have more to work with on a controller. Sometimes if they're trying to do a whole bunch of things, they either need to make them context sensitive, or they have to resort to tap versus hold in order to double the usage of some of those buttons. But still, I think that making a decision on which ones are tap, which ones are hold, like what that actually means, is so important.
Yeah, I also feel like the game design choice there is like, if you have something as tap X, you could accidentally push that and be committed to an animation like looting. So holding it would make sense that like, okay, you actually do want to commit to this animation because your animation locked for this certain time period. But like, if the hold prompt is as long as the animation is, like, it's a fucking complete waste. Like, I get holding for some things, but like,
If I'm gonna do something, it's just general rule of thumb. If I'm gonna do something 100 times or more in
That
your
needs
game,
to be tapping.
just let me tap it, or give me the option. Just put the option. I will sacrifice not being able to cancel out of that animation 1 second into it,
Right.
for the ability not to have to hold my fucking thumb on the button for so long, all the time.
Ryan, you just want to tap it?
I want to tap it and forget it. I want to hit it and quit it.
Wise words from Ryan.
Just let me be that person in a video game, okay?
So, Heather, we're with you. We hear you, we feel you, and we agree. The holding, it's got to go. Or there need to be dramatic improvements made to what requires a tap and what requires.
I wasn't
a
gonna
hold.
drink this.
You've got. He's foaming the Coke now. He's foaming the
that
Coke.
was
That's how
that was
mad
a
he
great
is.
email. That's my favorite email so far that we've done.
Okay, next up, Curtis Roberts says, "Hey guys, I was thinking recently about Steel Battalion for the OG Xbox
Oh,
due
wow,
to
me
the backwards
too.
compatibility announcement, and it got me wondering about gaming peripherals. So I'd like to ask the glitches, what were your favorite strange gaming peripheral that doesn't exist in modern gaming, and what was the worst one that any of you have used? Okay, my favorite one, and this isn't a peripheral as such, but it was one of the bizarro mechanics that I actually loved. There was a Game Boy game called Boktai.
Is that Golden Sun?
No.
Okay,
no,
sorry.
It was called
Totally.
Boktai, and you had to, the cartridge actually had a sun sensor, like a light sensor, and you would have to charge up and like get light charge, and so you'd have to spend time outside with
Go
it. Like,
outside.
charging up.
That is
Yeah.
Golden Sun.
Get vitamin D.
Is this the same name for a different? Like, is this the same
No.
game, different name? Golden
No.
Sun is the same mechanic.
In fact, Boktai was,
Bulk time.
God, who worked on Boktai? It was, I think Kojima worked on Boktai.
Huh.
But yeah, you had to, so you basically would go outside, you had would charge up your light, and then you could go into the dungeons and stuff and use it. But then it would deplete and you'd go outside and get light again. Everyone just, cheesed it by holding it up to a super bright light. But the point is, it was really cool. It was a way to introduce a sort of real world. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily qualify it as an ARG or anything like that, but it added that sort of real element to a game. It was really cool.
My favorite peripheral is definitely the Steel Battalion control. I never got to buy one.
$200 per.
That's like one of my biggest regrets of being young at that time. Was like I couldn't ask my dad for a $200 peripheral.
Yeah.
And now they're like $1 million. But the weirdest one was the Pikmin, or not the Pikmin one, the Seaman one. Seaman.
Tell us
It's
more.
a game for Dreamcast where you control a little seaman. He floats around. He looks like a seaman. But
I just still don't know which one you're
Does
saying,
he look
though.
like a seaman?
Are we
he
talking
looks
like a little,
He looks like a seaman,
like
Okay.
I'm going to
but he's
inseminate
called
you?
Seaman.
Okay.
Okay.
And, I believe he had a peripheral that was like a little dingle. Like it stuck off the end of the controller, went up like this, and I think you tickled it.
He had to tickle the
it's-
dingle?
I'm pretty sure that was. I'm 99% sure that was for Seaman, but it could have been for a Pokemon game. But I'm pretty sure you tickled.
I don't remember hearing about a
I'm
Pokemon
pretty
game where
sure
you
you
had to tickle
tickled.
the
I'm
dingle.
pretty sure you tickled the Seaman's dingle.
Oh my God, look at
There's Seaman.
Ah.
Seaman.
He doesn't start off as a fish. He starts off as a tadpole that looks like a seaman.
There is a little dongle apparently that allowed you to play using voice commands.
Yep,
that came
and you also
bundled,
could tickle it.
apparently, and also I guess the creator came out March 25th of this year, or May 25th of this year, saying that a new game may be in the works.
Played that game. It was
Seaman 2.
really,
The
really
Seamanity.
weird.
Hey. I think my favorite is that hands-on throttle and stick Gus has over there for Elite. It's like, every time I go there, I've never even used it
I
in
have
the
that.
game, and I just play with it.
I bought that same one. So
Awesome.
for Elite Dangerous, you can play that game in VR, and it is
Yes.
an unbelievable experience.
In
I also,
fact, that's what got Gus into trying it, was
Yeah.
the VR.
I remember the thing to do with that game, if you can, is to play with the AC blasting because it feels like cold and it's like how you think of
spacey.
space.
Yeah.
And
So what if you just get one of those directional air conditioners?
you could
put it
totally
in
do
front
that.
of your battle station
That's
and just point it this
literally
way?
how I played it the first time. It was amazing. And the X52, the Cytec X52 Pro is the one they have modeled in the game. So if you position it right in your chair, it's like 1-to-1 with where it is in the game. Obviously, your hands don't coordinate, but like when they're on the sticks, they do. It's fucking awesome. That game is like, if you want to try VR and you don't, like even just for a short period of time, do like one of the tutorial missions just to fly a ship around, like you feel like you're in space, even though the graphics aren't like the best thing in the world. Like just the feeling of like cold air and being in HOTAS and being able to look around, like when you're flying in a space battle, fuck, that thing is cool.
So immersive.
So immersive.
And you can go over to Adam's house and do that.
Oh, there it is.
That's
yeah.
the original X52. But the Pro,
The newer one looks even
doesn't have blue. That's actually the joystick they used in Chronicles of Riddick. In the spaceship.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice. Also, can we give an honorable mention to the Res vibrator?
Oh God, yeah.
What is that?
Oh my God,
Do
you
you
don't
not
know
know
about the
about the
Res
trans
vibrator?
vibrator?
Okay, so
I guess I do not.
hold on, Ryan, we have to educate you. So this
Show me a picture.
peripheral came out.
It looks like a
we'll look it up.
fucking
It
vibrator.
actually, well, that's because it's basically a vibrator. So
supposed to feel
it
the
was
music
made.
in
You're supposed to put it in your pants, and it was for the music game Res, and you. Res was sort of an emergent music game.
think I remember that
you'd
one,
play
yeah.
it, right? Like you'd play it by
Yeah.
like shooting the things, and they would make
Didn't
the
know
music.
about the
You're
peripheral.
supposed to feel it all
Right.
down there.
So you add the peripheral, put it down your pants, and
Supposed to
then
make
you
the
also
game
get the nice vibrations while you're doing that. So basically, like
It is.
play the game,
It is a sex
and then
toy
it
for a
takes
game.
care of you.
But they don't.
Interesting.
They didn't market it quite. They didn't say like it's a sex toy explicitly, but like if you have a brain.
That is
I mean,
not
come
a
on.
great picture.
I mean, it's a trance. They call it a trance vibrator.
Yeah.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Vibrates you into a trance.
I think that one
Doesn't
needs.
say anything about pants specifically, but
Well,
That was
where else are
Ash's
you gonna put it?
interpretation.
Where else are you gonna put it?
that's fair.
I mean, you can't like have it in your hands and like stick in your shirt. Come on, no, you're putting it in your pants.
Yeah, probably so. Pocket, I would imagine.
They also. This is not released to the public, but at some private E3s last year, they had the demo of their new game, Res Infinite.
Yeah.
And they had a full trance bodysuit where it had different vibration points on it. So like, I would love to be able to use one. Never will be able to, but like you could feel it all throughout your body, which is fucking cool.
With a lot in the crotchal region.
Maybe.
There's a whole bunch, just like
But
all
that's a shared
right.
suit. They can't really do it to it.
one, 1,000.
Wait,
Right.
hold on. What do you mean 1-1? How many nipples
Yeah.
have you
Well,
got?
how many nipples?
Oh, I
you
was
got,
just
dude?
picking points. Not until we got down here, it was just like, somewhere on the body. The nipples would have been good, though.
Also, shout out to the chainsaw controller for Resident Evil 4 for GameCube.
You know what? That's a good one. That's a pretty good one. Okay, next one. RT user, I am Kayla Marie, wrote in. I recently finished playing BioShock Infinite for the first time.
Haha, that's my fault.
Very late to the party. And is that you?
Yeah, she's comes to my stream a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. So it says, I know, late to the party, I know, but I somehow avoided every plot spoiler beforehand. It got me wondering, do you guys have any similar experiences playing a so-called iconic or must-play game years after its release? And if so, did you, knowing how hyped it was beforehand, affect your experience with the game in any way?
I tried to play BioShock Infinite about 3 times, and I get an hour in, and I'm just not gripped. And I loved BioShock.
That's a real shame because I like that game.
I know.
Well, it's very much about like if you're into the world, I think. Some of the story stuff for BioShock Infinite, it takes a while to build up. Did you get to the point where? Did you get to the point where you hit your first song cover?
I don't think so. I can't
'Cause
remember
that
if I've seen
was
it in
one of
a
the
cutscene or if I've seen it in the game.
I mean, you walk by it very early on.
It's pretty
an
early.
environmental thing.
But but that was one of the first things for me that obviously I loved going up in the elevator and seeing the whole world spread out because it was such a contrast to Rapture.
Yeah.
Because it was, instead of being under the sea and very closed in, it was the exact opposite. Like you can fall off the world.
Yeah.
It's in the clouds. It was really like I just liked seeing that contrast. But for me, the big thing, like one of the things that set it for me, that really gelled it, was walking by like the 4-man doo-wop group singing a modern song. And that just
if the aesthetic and
twisted something for me.
Yeah, if the aesthetic and the environment didn't sell you on the game, because that's pretty much what carries you through the first several part of the game until you get to the.
I mean, I liked the little carnival that you go to. I thought that was really interesting. I felt like it was a slow burn in the beginning.
Okay, if you got to the carnival, you definitely got through
Yeah.
the first song then.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't even gotten really to the gameplay at that point. That's all prologue.
I'm
essentially.
a little bit beyond the carnival. It's like I say, I played an hour or so.
Yeah.
Got the hook, started
It is
gliding
slow.
around.
It
and
is.
things.
It is an intro where if you're just not enraptured by it,
Can't be.
then it doesn't really. I can see how it wouldn't work out.
I'm still gonna try to play it again one day. I love BioShock, so I should probably try again.
I can't think of a game I've played though that had a big turn in it or a big reveal in it that I didn't. The only one I can think of is I know what the ending of Assassin's Creed 3 is, which wraps up the Desmond series, but I've never played it.
I'm trying to think franchises that I came to quite late, or games that I came to quite late. I know I played, I didn't play Final Fantasy X when it first came out. I waited a little bit on that, but I didn't wait years on it. What if I played years late?
What has a good turn would be a good question.
I played Ocarina of Time for the first time a few years back on
You know what?
3DS, and I didn't know about the fact that you go through time in that game.
You know what? That might be one for me too.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't play Ocarina when it first came out. I just didn't have it. So the 3DS version was the first time I actually played
Right, me too.
Ocarina of Time, and I really loved it.
Yeah, I remember being like, wow, that's fucking cool. That would have been really cool back in the day, just all of a sudden being in the future. Not like the super future, but like a bleak future where, or is it the past? I can't remember. I'm totally
I've never
lost.
played the game. I don't know.
You go through time.
Yeah,
I knew that.
I think you grow up.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, where you're like the little
You
Link.
start
and
off
then
a
you-
little kid, and then
yeah.
you go to sleep, and
Yeah.
you wake up. Yeah, I think for me, that's a pretty good one. And that makes me, I'm trying to think now of other games that I've played on something like the 3DS, like other games that are a little bit older. I started playing Wind Waker, on GameCube. I didn't finish it, and then I came back to it on Wii U and thought it was absolutely amazing. Again, this is where things like remakes or remasters, I think, can be very helpful when the mechanics hold up or where they get tweaks so that games either play like you remember them, except only the good parts, not the bad parts, or where the mechanics do hold up. Like, it's really helpful to have the graphics to match, essentially. Yeah, I'm gonna call those ones.
Yeah, I can't think of anything where I got anything spoiled beforehand.
The Sixth Sense got spoiled for me. I was sad.
That's a real shame.
Yeah.
I accidentally spoiled, not The Sixth Sense, but Split.
I haven't seen it. Don't spoil it. I don't want to know anything.
No, I actually spoiled it for somebody. I didn't know it was a spoiler. I'd been spoiled myself and didn't know it.
Oh, shit.
I thought it was just like an interesting factoid. And so I was sitting down to watch it with Brent, and I was like, and apparently, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, did you just spoil this? And I was like, I don't think so.
And then you watch it like, oh,
And I
fuck.
watched it, and I was like, he just looks over at me. He's like, God damn it. And I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was a spoiler either. All right. Thank you guys for writing into the mailbag. We are sort of running short on time because I got to go record some new stuff at some point. But if you want to write into us, we will try and answer as many of your questions as we can. And you can do that by emailing glitchplease@roosterteeth.com. And we will get to yours because we like you. And say thanks. And we will also have a post show that will be available exclusively for Rooster Teeth First members. If you're not a Rooster Teeth First member, you can check it out by signing up at theno.roosterteeth.com, and you get a free month trial, so you don't have to pay for anything right off the bat anyway. You can check it out and get a little bit more glitch in your life. And other than that, we'll see you guys next week.